Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Advertising Week Europe with me, Andy Johnson. Our next guest has done much better than many famous boxers did back in the time. He's gone at least half an hour or three-quarters of an hour with the legendary Chris Eubank. I'm joined now by Matt Teeman, MD of Primesight. Tell us about the great Chris Eubank then, because you've just interviewed him, and how was it?
It was exciting, actually. Yeah, I was just saying, I've only met him about a month ago, and whatever opinion you have of him, he's a very humble, very authentic, very charming man, actually, and he was an absolute pleasure. Bit of a loose cannon, likes to sort of talk, as you might expect.
But that's good, isn't it? You want a bit of that when you're doing it.
Yeah, there was.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I guess I was. I think, why?
Well, I'm just wondering, because he has got that reputation as being a bit of a loose cannon. He's charming, many facets to his personality, but you never quite know. I mean, you know, something I do for a living, when you're interviewing somebody, how it's going to pan out.
I think I got to know him, and I've certainly been more nervous when I've interviewed people, but for all the reasons I just said, it was a great experience, and hopefully one that the audience enjoyed, really.
All about making an impression as well. Tell me about that.
So, making an impression is a mission statement for Primesight. It was something I launched to the business just before Christmas. In essence, what it means is it's a framework where, regardless of which department you work in, across what discipline, we aim to make an impression. So whether that's through the quality and the of our estate, both classic and digital, whether that's through how we talk to our clients, whether that's the impression we give to our audiences, or whether that's how we kind of deal with each other within the office environment. So it spans right across the business. It's very much at the spine of everything that we do. And the link today was really, if anyone had ever kind of make an impression.
I was going to say, I can't think of anybody really.
Can't think of anyone. In and out of the ring.
In and out of the ring and in sport, really, in this country over the last 30, 40 years or whatever. I mean, in every single way, not only obviously with his supreme boxing ability, with his sense of style, with the fact he's outspoken about things, and certainly a person you could say he's his own man.
He's very much his own man. I think he really enjoyed it. He was very complimentary at the end, and he's now managing his son's career, and he's actually doing quite a lot of work in terms of managing the ability to get sponsors to come on that journey with him. So he's been doing some work with Jonathan Durden of PhD fame, and Jonathan has been trying to advise him really on which brands would be best suited to work with Junior Eubank. So it was good. It's a good fit, I think.
Was he able to talk about how he feels as a dad with his son following in his footsteps? Because obviously it's a very dangerous game, boxing, so that's one thing. And two, it's very, very difficult, I'm sure, for any sibling or child of a famous person to choose the same road.
It is. It's interesting, actually. And in some of the footage that we managed to acquire, there's some moments from when Junior was very young, and Chris Eubank Senior talking really about how he would never encourage not just his own children but anyone into the boxing ring. And I think Junior's had to work very hard at convincing him that he wanted a shot at it, and be very persistent. That was the word that came about. But I think what Chris said was he doesn't fear for his son because he's that good. Whether that's part of the showmanship, you make your mind up. But I think essentially he looks like he's on his way to being all the things that his father was and more, possibly.
And how conscious a decision is it on behalf of Chris Eubank Senior to make an impression in everything that he does? I mean, he did it in his sporting career. As I say, his sense of dress, he stood out in that sort of way. Is it something he works very hard at, as well as doing quite naturally? Are the two things?
Good question. Well, it was a question I asked him, really. I mean, I did quite a lot of research into him leading up to the interview, and you know, he came from quite humble, quite difficult childhood, really, and I think he very much set out to improve himself constantly. He had an inbuilt or an inbred sort of need to be accepted, and I think boxing was one of the outlets that helped him get acceptance. And I think ultimately along the way he met one or two sort of quite influential characters, developed a bit of a swagger both in the ring but also out of the ring, and with that came his passion for sort of sartorial elegance, really.
Well, it's great, isn't it? Because, I mean, from as far as I'm concerned, as a journalist, you want those characters. You want to interview people who might be slightly off the wall, you might be slightly nervous about.
As long as they don't lose it, and he didn't.
Exactly, exactly. As long as you're far enough away from him. I would have worn my glasses just in case. That might not have saved me. But I mean, in a world that is populated by grey, to have some real a colourful character like him in every sense of the word, with what he does, how he dresses, his opinions on things. It's far more interesting, isn't it? Let's face it.
I think so. You know, you have to ask the audience, but I would be arguably a bit biased. But he certainly, I think the theme sort of worked well for him, and I think he actually admitted that he'd done a lot of work around what does make an impression mean, and thought about it rather than just turned up and, you know, spieled off some gospel that he'd done before. So it was you know, it was a pleasure, real pleasure.
Well, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and of course people can watch it back on AW Replay if they didn't manage to get to your session. Tell us a bit before you go about what's next for Primesight. Have a drink of water first if you want to.
Yeah, sip. Excuse me.
That's okay.
So aside from sort of making an impression, which is very much about our kind of mission for the year, and we're going to certainly, as a framework, help us deliver against all of our sort of objectives. Primesight is in a really interesting place. We had a defining year last year, and I'm not just saying that because I've got a microphone poked under my nose. We sort of entered the year, and I joined sort of midway through the year, but we won a number of accolades, really, that I believe were well deserved. We won Media Brand of the Year, we won Out of Home Sales Team of the Year for the second year running, along with a few other sort of digital awards, which we hadn't done before. Anyone in the room or anyone listening knows that kind of entering awards is fine. Getting shortlisted is, you know, in some ways a win, but going
Winning's
on to win,
matters.
well, it's what matters, but it's difficult. So we were really pleased with that. I think it's always been a challenger brand. We're not the biggest, but we go about our business in a very defined way. We have a really strong culture, really people-focused, and I think that really sets us apart. And I think we've got a reputation for being great to do business with, and I think that does set us apart. So this year, we won a number of quite exciting tenders last year, which we were delighted. So the biggest of those was the BT contract. So we've from Q4 this year, we'll be inheriting about 17,500 phone boxes, along with.
What are you going to do with them?
Well, we're going to continue the good work that Deco had done. But actually, the interesting thing is that and I think it was a big reason why we won the contract, is we're going to convert, certainly in year one, around 100 of those into link units.
Right.
If you're not familiar with link units are very prevalent in the US, particularly in New York. They are a game-changing product that connects cities. So to give you a kind of quick overview, they are 2.9 meters high, two 55-inch screens, 1 gig of Wi-Fi, which effectively means you can download a film in about 40 seconds. Free Wi-Fi for the public. They have free phone jacks, so you can charge your phone probably about 30%.
Is it going to be like it used to be at the phone box? You're going to have a massive queue around the block. Well, can you get out there, please? I want to phone somebody in a minute.
They had some teething problems in the US with the tablet. There's a sort of navigational tablet, and one or two of the sort of street people were sort of camping out and almost owning the units. But the point is that connecting cities, making cities smart, this is a real catalyst for that. Yeah. So we're going to start in London, and then we're going to roll out over the next sort of 2 to 3 years across other major cities in the UK.
Very exciting. Final question. Yep. What one thing, apart from how to improve your jab and how to improve your guard, do you think you've learned from interviewing Chris Eubank?
That's a good question. I think authenticity, which is quite often now an overused word, but I think not knowing a lot about him, but having a perception of him before, and hearing him talk about, his image. I think when you get to know someone, and I do feel like I had got to know him a little bit, he's very authentic. He is what he is, and he does everything he can to portray that in a positive light. So, well,
look, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this afternoon as well, after talking to Chris Eubank, and great to meet you. Thanks very much, Matt. Of course, you can watch Matt's interview with Chris Eubank back on AW Replay, and you can keep in contact, as ever, with us on #AWEurope.